Deep in the mountains of Montana, a forgotten ranch has waited more than a century for someone to return.
Some places lose their owners, but never lose their stories. Understanding the land is always the first step toward restoring it.
Every beam still carries the weight of more than 100 years. Even after all these years, the ranch still feels alive.
For decades, this bell called every ranch hand home. Machines may stop working, but craftsmanship never truly disappears.
Sometimes history survives not in buildings, but in the pages left behind.
Every successful restoration begins with a shared vision.
Restoring one ranch isn't simply rebuilding structures. It's preserving the spirit of the American West.
For the first time in generations, the gates welcome life back onto the ranch.
Every successful restoration begins by understanding every inch of the land.
Time leaves its mark, but strong foundations can still be saved.
Every beam was shaped by hand, built to last a lifetime.
Before electricity, horsepower meant exactly what it sounded like.
A healthy ranch depends as much on the land as it does on the buildings.
Even an abandoned ranch remains part of a living wilderness. A single brand once represented generations of responsibility and pride.
Every decision made today will shape the future of the entire ranch.
Saving this ranch will require more than skill. It will require patience, respect, and determination. The house stood silent for generations, patiently waiting for footsteps to return.
Every photograph quietly preserves the people who once called this place home.
Strong craftsmanship often survives longer than the people who built it. Every carved detail reflects the pride of the craftsmen who built this ranch.
This room once directed the daily rhythm of an entire ranching operation.
Every measurement today becomes the blueprint for tomorrow's restoration. Even the smallest discoveries help reconnect the ranch with its past.
More than a century ago, every morning here began with purpose.
Protecting history begins with careful planning, never with rushing.
The house preserved the family's memories, but the barn preserved their way of life.
For more than a century, this barn stood as the heartbeat of the ranch.
These giant timbers have carried countless Montana winters without surrender.
The strongest buildings always begin with a foundation built to endure. Long before hydraulic equipment, every bale of hay traveled through this ingenious system.
Every stall reflects the care once given to the livestock that built this ranch.
At the height of every season, this barn never stood quiet.
Every measurement protects another piece of American ranching history. Even forgotten tools still remember the people who once relied on them. Before restoration begins, history must first be protected.
Today, the barn begins its journey back to life, one timber at a time.
Every successful restoration begins by carefully removing what time has already taken away.
History should never be dismantled without remembering where every piece belongs. Supporting the past is often the first step toward rebuilding the future. Even the smallest mechanism helped keep an entire ranch running. Before new life can begin, decades of forgotten history must first be uncovered. At its peak, every bale of hay represented another day of survival. Technology allows us to see what time has quietly changed. Even abandoned places continue providing shelter for new generations. The first restored beam marks the true beginning of the barn's rebirth. One restored section may seem small, but every great restoration begins exactly this way. Every restored rafter brings the barn one step closer to standing proudly again.
Precision today ensures another century of strength. Proper ventilation protected generations of livestock through every season.
Traditional craftsmanship values patience above speed. Every completed section must earn the right to protect the next generation.
A strong roof once meant the difference between survival and loss.
Restoration succeeds when history and nature continue thriving together.
Today's work becomes tomorrow's history.
The familiar red color returns, carrying more than a century of ranching tradition. Only 2 days have passed, yet the ranch has already begun reclaiming its place in history.
Long before engines crossed these valleys, horses carried the ranch through every season.
Craftsmanship built for horses survived far longer than anyone expected.
Every horse once had its own story, carefully recorded.
Every journey once began with equipment prepared by skilled hands. Digital preservation ensures this stable will never be forgotten again. Every great cattle drive began long before sunrise inside these stables.
Healthy buildings breathe just as naturally as the animals they once protected.
Sometimes history waits quietly beneath our feet. Authentic restoration honors the original craftsman, not the modern shortcut. The stable once sheltered the ranch's greatest partners, and soon it will tell their story once again.
Every ranch depended on a blacksmith, because every tool eventually returned to the fire.
This forge once shaped every piece of iron that kept the ranch alive. Even the workbench tells the story of countless hours of honest craftsmanship. Every page records another piece of the ranch's working history. Every handcrafted tool deserves to survive long after its final job. From sunrise until long after dark, the forge rarely rested.
Even the hottest workshop depended on fresh mountain air.
Sometimes the smallest discovery carries the greatest story. After decades of silence, the forge breathes once again.
Every restored workshop becomes the foundation for restoring everything around it.
Before electricity reached these valleys, the wind powered an entire ranch.
Water towers survive only when every supporting beam remains trustworthy.
Every gear once transformed the power of the wind into the gift of water.
Understanding the flow of water is essential before restoring its journey.
Everything the ranch needed began beneath this quiet well.
On the open prairie, every drop of water meant another day of life.
Healthy water supports every living thing around it. Even the dog senses that the ranch is coming back to life.
The sound of flowing water is the sound of a ranch returning to life.
When the wind returns, so does the life that depends upon it. The front porch welcomed every visitor and witnessed every farewell.
True restoration honors the hands that carved every detail.
The strongest restorations are often the ones no one can see.
Sometimes the builders quietly signed their work, knowing it might one day be discovered.
Light once welcomed weary travelers home, and soon it will again.
At the end of every hard day, everyone gathered here.
A restored home should welcome both people and nature. A peaceful porch always feels like home. Every restored detail reflects respect for the people who built this home. When a home is restored, the spirit of an entire ranch begins to return.
Before highways and trucks, these wagons connected the ranch to the world.
Every wheel carried supplies, families, and dreams across the Montana frontier.
Reliable transportation depended on every hidden mechanical detail. Every journey left behind a written record of life on the frontier.
Every restored vehicle becomes part of a permanent digital heritage archive.
Every wagon leaving the barn carried the future of the ranch.
Protecting history begins with protecting the land beneath it.
Even forgotten cargo can still deliver a story.
One restored wagon represents countless journeys brought back to life. The road ahead begins, where history finds its wheels once again.
A ranch could never thrive without a reliable supply of grain.
Even the tallest structures
depend on countless small connections. Every harvest climbed skyward through this remarkable machine. Every page reveals how carefully every season was planned. Digital preservation protects knowledge long after the buildings grow old.
Harvest season transformed this quiet building into the busiest place on the ranch. Healthy land protects every structure built upon it.
Simple tools often carry the deepest history.
For the first time in generations, the harvest begins to rise once more. A thriving ranch depends not only on strong hands, but on careful preparation for every season ahead.
Every hard-working ranch began its day here, around the warmth of a shared meal.
This table welcomed countless conversations after long days beneath the Montana sky. For decades, this stove kept every ranch hand warm through harsh Montana winters.
The taste of home was carefully preserved, one handwritten recipe at a time.
Every room deserves to be preserved with the same precision as every building.
Before the first horse left the stable, breakfast brought everyone together.
The smallest gardens often provided the greatest comfort.
Even an ordinary coffee mug can preserve extraordinary memories.
A restored kitchen truly comes alive only when it serves another meal.
A ranch is rebuilt with timber and stone, but it becomes a home through the moments shared around the table.
After every long day on the range, this bunkhouse became a place of rest and friendship.
Simple furniture often carried the greatest comfort. On freezing Montana nights, this stove meant warmth, safety, and another morning to come.
History is remembered not only through buildings, but through the voices of ordinary people.
Every room deserves to be preserved with complete accuracy for future generations.
Every evening ended not with silence, but with stories shared among friends.
A comfortable home extends beyond its walls.
Even music leaves echoes long after the last note fades.
The greatest restoration is one that allows future generations to experience history for themselves. The strength of every great ranch came not only from its buildings, but from the people who lived within them.
Every successful cattle drive ended here, where organization transformed chaos into order.
Every fence guided thousands of animals safely across the ranch.
Strong livestock facilities protected both animals and the people who cared for them. Accurate measurements once determined the future of every herd.
Every brand represented responsibility, stewardship, and generations of ranching tradition.
Each spring brought renewed energy as the ranch prepared another generation of cattle.
Healthy pasture begins with healthy native ecosystems.
Even the smallest tag once represented a living part of the ranch.
This working corridor once managed thousands of cattle, and now it preserves their history.
The corrals once organized the movement of livestock. Today, they organize the memories of an entire ranching legacy.
A great ranch was built not only through hard work, but through education and community.
Every desk once held the dreams of a new generation.
For decades, this bell welcomed every school day across the valley.
Every handwritten lesson shaped the future of a frontier community. Preserving knowledge begins with preserving the places where learning happened. Education brought knowledge. Community brought people together.
A classroom extends beyond its walls into the landscape that surrounds it.
Even a child's writing board can preserve a century of memories.
The best way to preserve history is to allow future generations to experience it firsthand. A restored ranch preserves buildings. A restored school preserves the future.
Long before supermarkets, this orchard provided food, shade, and hope for every season.
A healthy orchard begins with living soil and thriving biodiversity.
Every carefully shaped beam once protected life growing beneath glass.
Simple engineering once kept every plant alive through changing seasons. The orchard preserved not only fruit, but generations of knowledge. Every spring reminded the ranch that renewal always follows winter. Every tree becomes part of a permanent record for future generations.
Even an old crate once carried the harvest that sustained an entire ranch.
The greatest restoration is measured not only by what is repaired, but by what is planted for the future.
A restored ranch feeds the body, but a restored orchard nourishes the generations still to come.
Beyond hard work and survival, every ranch also needed a place for hope.
Simple craftsmanship created a place where generations found peace.
Protecting history means strengthening it without changing its soul.
Every signature recorded another chapter in the ranch's story.
Digital preservation ensures every detail can be remembered for generations.
Every Sunday, this small chapel brought an entire community together.
Preserving a ranch also means honoring the people whose lives shaped it.
Sometimes the greatest respect is expressed through quiet remembrance. Remembering the past helps guide those who will care for it in the future.
Buildings preserve history, but remembrance preserves the people who made that history possible.
Every great ranch begins with water, and every stream tells a story.
Bridges connect more than land. They connect generations.
Buildings preserve history, but remembrance preserves the people who made that history possible. A single gate once controlled the lifeblood of the entire ranch.
Healthy water always brings life back with it.
A restored bridge should feel as though time never interrupted its journey.
Modern technology helps preserve the wisdom of traditional engineering.
Even the quietest corners of the ranch still hold forgotten memories.
Water returned first, and life followed close behind.
When water flows once again, an entire landscape begins to remember how to live.
Every successful ranch relied on a workshop where broken tools found a second life.
Long before electric motors, a single rotating shaft powered an entire workshop.
Every carefully organized tool reflected pride in honest craftsmanship.
Every repair added another page to the story of keeping the ranch alive.
Preserving knowledge begins with documenting every detail.
During harvest, every repaired tool helped secure another successful season.
The best restoration quietly prepares history for another century.
Precision often survives in the smallest forgotten tools. Every restored tool stands ready to teach future generations how craftsmanship built the American frontier. When tools are restored, knowledge survives. And when knowledge survives, history continues to build the future.
After years of silence, the gates are ready to welcome the world once again. History becomes truly alive when it is shared with others.
Every restored building now serves as a classroom without walls.
The restoration itself has now become part of the ranch's history.
Knowledge survives only when it is passed from one generation to the next.
Generations may change, but stewardship continues. Perhaps no one understands home better than the one who never forgot it.
Great restorations are never the work of one person. They are built through shared dedication. Every building has been restored. Every story has found its voice once again.
History was never lost. It simply waited for someone willing to care enough to bring it home again.